YOLO mofos! Welcome to 420 TV. I'm your host, DJ Ransom, the Freedomist, and welcome to another episode of the Miac Mini Ice Age Conversations that we're going to have with David Dubine, as he calls shortly. In just 1 second. Anyway, how are you guys doing? Let's look in the chat, see what's going on in there. And yes, America in 4K is me. That's my new channel. That's the one that's going to be non-political, mostly just nature and gardening and, blah, blah, blah. Pyramid 7, what up? Living in left field. Delaney Jones, how's it going? Jeremy. Sue, I don't know why you don't have a wrench. It says you are a moderator. Or maybe I'm not allowed to add more moderators. I think I might have ran out of wrenches, if that's the thing. And I only got like 200 subscribers. What the hell? Super crowded in here, bro. Yeah, like with all five of y'all and stuff. And I'd like to thank all 6 of y'all for showing up. Joking. If you guys ever watch Cat Williams, that's funny. I'm not going to say the joke because they would call me racist if I said it. That's all right. I'll tell it. Basically, he was joking about how, like 6 Hispanic people showed up to his show. And he was like, I'd like to thank all 6 of y'all for showing up. And all of y'all came in the same car and everything. I need one of those soundboards so I can add my own laughter and stuff. What's up, Desert Rose? All right, let me see here. One situation at a time. What's going on there? What the hell just happened? There I is. I'm back. I was looking for my other camera. Here it is. Is that it? No, that's not it. What the hell happened? Oh yeah, that's much better because you could barely see me and stuff. You guys like the fire crackling? Because we're gonna tell you some stories tonight. In the Twilight Zone. Everybody likes negative, and I don't care. Let's see what's up with David Dubine. Nothing. So what's new in your all's lives? What's going on? When is Ruby gonna make an appearance on the show? That's kind of hard to do because like sometimes she's crying, sometimes she's sleeping, but we will try to do that. Matter of fact, I know some of you guys are subs on the Raven Wolf channel. We'll probably just we might do some shows with her on there. I don't really want to expose her on this channel too much. And this channel, by the way, is probably going to get deleted soon. So, not deleted by me, but by YouTube because, I speak my mind on this channel. So, this is the main channel you can expect to get banned. If you do me a favor, go ahead and sub to America in 4K right there. That's me for a backup channel. And I'm going to open up a channel just dedicated to news. Just 420 TV news. I'm probably going to have to drop the title 420 because it's been identified as dangerous. And they don't think y'all should listen to us over here. I'm just joking. I've been trying my damnedest to talk in code. And I watch my own shows. And more, I sound like an ignorant, illogical fucking retard. I mean, not to offend anyone, but I have to retard my own speech because we don't live in a free country like you think you do, or you might have thought that you did. It's just not the way it is anymore. What's up, Pale Horse? And here we go. Hold on just a second, everybody.
Mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time: cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the grand solar minimum? Then join me for mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David Dubine. creator of the Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age 2015 to 2035 video series. And I do welcome you tonight on this beautiful blue planet. Hope you're having a good day, a wonderful day, a blessed day. Thunderstorms raging across the southeast U.S. We're expecting severe, incredible intense winds coming around 50, 60 miles per hour around midnight, and just the most violent electrical storms. So we're getting around that hour and the skies are flashing. This morning we had some window shaking booms come through out here. I'll be letting Ransom carry on at the end of the show because if I do have to sign off, these electrical storms are no joke coming through. They put out all these warnings already to get ready for it. Because it's the tailing end of the front. So after that passes, it's all that other wind pushing behind it. So it's really compacting that frontal boundary there. And it's going to be a ferocious one for sure. Look for the scorpion tail, lightning, plasma. Ouch. Anyway, I'm here with Ransom Godwin, 420 TV, Freedomist Films. As always, we're going to try to throw some ideas across. You know, what the regular mainstream that you're seeing every day, you're just being bombarded with the same narrative. We're going to pull off over to the left in a cul-de-sac, down a back road, up a gravel, take you across the river, up into a meadow, and we're going to check out a different view of the Himalayan landscape over there. So as we peruse through tonight's events across the planet, now there's a couple things going on, at least in my view, and Ransom might see something different. But I have been saying for how many months now, April is going to probably be the crash. By the 11th of April, there'll be a significant 30, 40, 50% reduction in the global equities market on purpose to usher in then some semblance of a new cryptocurrency system. That's about 2 weeks away or less. And here we have the Suez Canal being totally blocked off by a ship, the largest container ship in the world, or at least that class of the largest container ships. Now, just yesterday, they pulled it to the side, and they're like, okay, there's some shipping traffic moving through the Suez Canal. And already they have 13 mega tankers with 2 million barrels stranded. So that's 26 million barrels plus all these other smaller ships. So just today, they're looking at least a minimum of 30 million stranded barrels of oil in transport from point A to point B. And now, as would be a good economic collapse excuse, they're going to have to reroute everything from the Suez Canal around South Africa, all the way around Africa. So that's going to delay everything 15 days further out. So catalyst for an economic collapse, how about the complete disruption of oil shipping across the planet due to the closure of the Suez Canal, which for me is a little unusual and strange. The timing on all this is a little bizarre. Not only was that largest container ship class in the world, completely loaded with 18,000 containers, 18,000. But then it ran ashore mysteriously in one of the most traveled waterways in the entire planet. And it just blew by accident into a really kinked, weird position, the strangest position ever they could ever imagine. Randomly, and it blocked off all the shipping for all the oil across there, so they have to reroute it around Africa. Except for the very smallest of ships. Like no super tankers can go through any longer. Smaller ships, yeah. Everything else, bye-bye, go around Africa for at least the next 15 to 30 days. Ransom, what kind of kink in the global economy do you think that'll add into, in addition to the destruction of everything off this COVID? Are we in for something new and unusual here in the next 2 weeks? What do you think? Gas prices, availability of food, what are you thinking?
I think it's not going to be nothing unusual. I think it's just standard communism. There's plenty of people around the world that are used to waiting in lines and waiting for things and not having things and having people tell them what they're going to do during that time. What I've been tripping on is I saw that article you sent me over about, because I was already reading, you know, all about Biden's new green plan, I guess you could call it. And then you sent me that article that says, you know, they pretty much did that in Canada. So we're at the point in history where we are now being taxed to breathe. So it's coming to you wherever you live. On the last 420 TV news, I showed everybody how like at least 12 states are either already doing it or about to start charging you per mile to drive your car, which means you can't even go over to the next town to find supplies without, you know, reaching in your pocket pretty deep. And then, you know, It's so funny that they keep talking about all of these carbon dioxide, plant food as some kind of poison, but at the same time, they really are pumping out lots of poisons in the air. And I saw an article on Sky News, basically talking about the proportions of the male male part, I guess we'll just call it the male part, increasingly getting smaller in industrialized countries. And if anybody wants to really know what's going on, what you should do is get you like some transparent maps of the world and start laying them over each other and marking them with titles like who gets the most modern medicine. You can overlap that one. You could overlap the ones that eat the most of the genetically modified food. You can put another map of all the natural disaster zones, and you'll start seeing a weird pattern showing up where all of the bad things are happening all in the same places, from infertility, sterilization, I guess you could call it, from one reason or another. That's debatable, I guess. But then now they're talking about the male member being smaller due to chemicals in the air. But that's okay, David, because we can all wear 4 masks, and that'll filter out to all of that, and we should be fine. Don't worry about the food at the supermarket; they'll get around to it. Where I live, believe it or not, Starbucks is nowhere in town. They're out. The Pepsi distributors have none at the warehouse, and it's just one item of something that a lot of people like. So it's a good marker for a trends. So if there's no Starbucks in any of the stores where I live, because they say the warehouse doesn't have it, and the warehouse says Starbucks doesn't have it, and Starbucks says, well, we're having trouble getting ingredients because of supply chain distributions, that's just coffee. Wait till it's your lettuce, your meat, your eggs, your milk, your staples. And for those of you that watch this channel, I'm sure you have stuff in the cupboard right now. But I think a lot of people are really not taking, I guess, prepping serious, because there's kind of been a negative, spin on people that prep. Wow, did we already cut out? I think we did. You still there, David? No, he doesn't appear to be there. So basically, yeah, a lot of people are not really serious. And one reason I can tell that is I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the story that's developing in Texas at the migration center, where a lot of people are pointing out those silver things over all the people. And there's a lot of wild conspiracies out there to what that is. That tells me that none of you guys are really preppers, judging by the comments on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube about those. They're called space blankets. They're emergency blankets, and any prepper with any real salt has probably 300 or 400 of those. They probably have one in each pack, probably one in each jacket. I know I do. I have them everywhere. They're a lifesaver. And it's so funny that supposed people that are prepping or know what things are, they don't know what that is. They have no idea. I've heard conspiracy theories from body bags to tinfoil, all kinds of stuff. It's just a regular space blanket. They're about 9 to 15 cents a piece. You can buy them in bulk on Amazon, and they are literally a lifesaver. They hold back probably 90% of the heat, so you can put that on an emergency situation and survive the night. Most campers, hikers, preppers, and those type of people know what those are. And let me see what's going on with David there. I think he already got cut off.
Yeah, I came back in. I was just commenting that it's the strangest thing. Last week, the exact same thing happened. My feed got cut. My internet went out at this exact same time. I was just saying, wow, I wonder if anybody's messing with my feed now, because it's very strange that it would cut out at the exact same time 2 weeks in a row. All right, once it might have been the weather. The thunderstorms aren't due for another 2 hours here, so for the internet to actually cut off right at this second, again, right when we started, I'm thinking that's a little outside the bounds of being a coincidence. That's just me, though. That's just me. A little strange. But yeah, I also wanted to go into the green agenda for a second here, because remember how even last year or the year before, Janet Yellen and all the ECB and everybody was like, no way on carbon taxes. That'll destroy the economy. There's no possible way. You can't do that. And everybody was super against it in the banking elite.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly, this week, yesterday, they're all 100% on board. just like with Trudeau, and just like you're talking about, that case is in the Supreme Court that's going to decide if a carbon tax is constitutional or not. And suddenly the entire global financial system is now in favor of full carbon taxes and even having lockdowns to do something with CO2 on the planet to give the planet a break. Now, what's going on here? Because this is like a total manipulation of society's direction when it's going to be a full scrape of wealth. When, like you say, you can't even drive to another city and they're going to tax you by the mile. But, Ransom, I'm curious how they could tax you by the mile. I understand that, a lot of cars have computers in them, and, if you go to a petrol station, maybe they'll say, hey, I don't know, they'll take a photo of your license plate or something, but I'm just not sure how they're going to be able to tax you to be able to get into your odometer, especially with some of these older cars and whatever, to be able to tax you by the mile. I just don't understand how that will work.
Well, they've already figured out the system. It's similar to the DWI system. What they'll do is have some kind of attachment that you'll be forced to have to be able to get licensing and registration for your older cars. So you'd have to plug that in, and then the newer cars, they can just either wirelessly get the information or just plug into your OBD connector under the car, if that's the right word for that. Yeah, so it's not hard to do that. Either that, or they'll just start, we've set up one of the most incredible surveillance systems on the earth. People talk about China and how far it's gone, but if you've ever gone outside and really looked around here in the United States, you'll realize that we're on par now with China and Great Britain as far as CCTV cameras, and I don't mean communist TV, but closed circuit TV. Every intersection has a camera now. So, and not just that, the cameras are wired to algorithms and AI that can read not only your face, but your license plate. And when they mark you here, there, and the other place, they'll know, because all of these companies are sharing information. So, when you walk into your local, let's say Starbucks, because I brought them already, their Wi-Fi pings off of your phone and sells that data to a third party so that they know you like whatever your product is. Matter of fact, Google, with a pretty good degree of accuracy, can predict what you're going to do throughout the daytime, including when you're going to go to the bathroom, when you're going to, decide to, take the day off. With a good precision, they already know that. They know all the places you go. That is, if you're not paying attention to it. If you're just walking around like a regular citizen with your phone, every single one of these mega billion-dollar companies are picking up your metadata and mapping out where you go, how you spend, and putting together a psychological algorithm to predict your needs, your wants, and what you will do if you don't get those needs or wants. And I think we're really going through a big test phase right now, getting ready for the later half of this decade. They're closing up all the loopholes, and part of that is this tax by the mile. And I believe the reason behind this, and I know we've talked about it before, but there have been several articles from all the major manufacturers, Ford, Daimler Chrysler, whatever it's called now, Dodge. I think somebody in Europe bought that, right? But anyway, all of these companies have plans to go to AI cars, especially Ford, who announced that they're going to stop producing self-driving cars. In other words, or not self-driving cars, human-driven cars, and replace them with all AI cars. And then you're going to have to pay unreasonable amounts of insurance, fees, taxes, just to be able to drive your car somewhere on the interstates without having a computer control where you go and how far you go. And when you add in this idea that is obviously being put in place in the United States, they may call it something else, but it is a social credit score that everything you do, from your politics to how you behave when the government mandates certain things that you do and you may not comply with those, you're all going into a folder and they're sharing that information. So I think it's going to be real easy to tax, let's say, patriots out of existence, basically. Everything that they do, from farming to driving to self-sufficiency, are going to be attacked by this administration and whatever follows. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like an Enduro 250, some of the older models, that don't have all the computer parts, because even the motorbikes do today. So, getting some of the off-road gear, we talked about this in the preparedness plans. So not a lot of people are talking about transport in other ways in a grid down situation, because an Enduro 250 will allow you to transverse roads, logging roads, trails, dry creek beds, up, just dirt roads and things that are completely impassable by a regular automobile or even a 4x4 for that case for so many of the things. So, having one of those and the fuel efficiency on it as well, and you can carry it if you put, some kind of panniers or side saddles on that, you'd be able to strap loads to that, and eventually learn how to ride pretty well with, weights on either side or in the back or a combo of. So would they be able to do the tax by the mile on a motorbike like an Enduro 250 from a couple years back when they didn't have all the computer tracking parts in there? And is this going to, the direction it's going to go is you're going to dust off all that tri-wheel? We were talking, I had one of my orchard managers up here because I just planted an orchard. That was a rough task. And for those of you who think it's going to be super easy to grow your own food, I would advise you to start now, because the learning curve that I just experienced putting an orchard in of 180 trees was like, it wasn't a curve, it was a straight up rocket ship. And the amount I had to hire two people, and I had, two people with me that wanted to work, and then I hired two more. And, we drilled the holes using an auger on a 30-inch auger, and then, it got hot one day and all that dirt dried out into clumps, and it was clay soil. And there's an enormous amount of things to think about. But if you're going to be going to grow your own food, you better start now, because, these types of, how do you access food if you don't have it? I mean, sheesh. I was going somewhere with that thought, but I kind of lost track on it. But being able to stay outside that system of, enduros, for example. Oh, and that's what we were talking about, the tri-wheel, because when I was talking with those guys out there, and, we had a lot of time, hours and hours every day to fill holes and chat and compare stories. We were talking about how fun it was to try to balance those. You remember when the original off-road ATV was a three-wheeler, and then they had a lot of tip-overs and accidents, and then they stopped that. There were so many lawsuits, and now everything's a quad, a four-wheel. But we were talking about the maneuverability and able to those three-wheelers to get into areas these new quads can't go into, and how fun it was to be a little dangerous and try to tip them on the side and ride those on two wheels, which we all did. If you ever had one of those, and you probably crashed it like I did a few times. But just that change over of the nanny state saying you can't have a three-wheeler, and, everything needs to move to be regulated, this and that. But we had said something very similar in our conversations, like, you realize that those old three-wheelers, they have no computer parts in them, and they can go anywhere, almost anywhere that a regular Enduro can go. And we were talking specifically about how the new Rangers or, something like this, quads, get stuck where those three-wheelers used to be able to pile through. So being able to go from point A to point B to get supplies or visit another community that you're going to have to go around a couple roadblocks or something. A lot of people aren't thinking about that. I mean, horses, there's a lot of horses in our community here. So, yeah, you could ride a horse, but they're a little noisier. Well, I wouldn't say noisier, but there's drawbacks to both of those, and there's speed considerations and others. So, I don't know. It's a brave new world mixed with the craziness. Jupiter ascending kind of farmed. I think the cull is here that the farming rotation at this time on the Earth has reached its apex. And that could be for the gold that's been mined. It could be for the human population that's reached its apex as well for the harvest. And a few other strange ideas going through my mind here, that being in a farming community, I see the turnover happening right now with the winterized over into everybody getting into spring and tilling. And I remember last year when I came into harvest season, it's kind of like our planet's right at harvest season right now for whatever entities that are here. And the farming season has ended. So we're going into, harvest. We're going to cut the plants down.
Yay.
We're going to till it back into the soil. And there's so many ways to take that if you're talking about off-planted entities or interdimensional entities. And I think that's why all this great reset is here. I finally Started by putting my hands in the earth these last 4 or 5 days and getting extremely tired to the point of exhaustion. I started to see something. I broke through the veil a sliver in a total natural way. I didn't nothing. I just kind of saw I saw something through something in the way that the farming community operates on how we are at this pivot point on our planet right now. Maybe that's a little too woo woo. I'll let it go there.
No, I don't think it's too woo woo at all. I'm showing the audience right now a picture of a mother with her newborn baby. And you might have saw that on social media by now. But basically, they have the mother walled off, and they have this baby shoved up against a plastic sheet. It looks, eerily similar of that scene in the Matrix when they show the little baby connected to all the tubes under the plastic bubble, and they're feeding the babies, intravenously the dead. This is just like that. Like you said, it's a brave new world right there where you can't even kiss your newborn baby, and that little piece of plastic in between the baby and the mother basically represents the state of authoritarianism that we're in right now, where even the mandates and, some would argue maybe not the right, I'm going to say a scientific method, I guess, used in some of these mandates. And you can see, like, for everybody in the audience right there, this woman, and she thinks it's cute. She's wearing her mask. They got the kid in the plastic. She's very happy and feels safe. What I'm seeing is a cruel sci-fi movie. It's just bizarre. I can't imagine that. I mean, we just had our own newborn, and I can't imagine not being able to touch her because the government or the state or whoever decided that they will not only just get in between you with mandates, but literally, physically put a barrier between you with plastic. And, it's just nonsense. I don't think you're wrong for that at all. And I don't think it's too woo-woo to say that you could look around the planet right now and see major changes going on that would lead you to believe we are in a culling time. And the sickest thing about it to me is the amount of people that nonchalantly go along with the status quo, whatever the status quo is, no matter how crazy they change the threshold of what they consider is their power on one end.
Yeah, and I'll add another bit to your cellophane wrapper there. And that's really important too for a child. The first minutes that they're born to bond with a mother on that physical level. I mean, I don't know how many psychological experiments they've done from separating the mother, and they've done this through the animal kingdom to the humans in those first, couple of months. If they're not touched by another human, including the mother, they literally go insane or they just die. That's how important it is to have that electrical connection and that, that feeling connection between the two. But a woman at an super upper class, like $20,000 a year to send your kid to go to a regular middle school, kind of upper echelon, those super private schools. She was not wearing a mask, and they saw her not wearing a mask when she dropped her daughter off, and within 36 hours, the state swooped in and grabbed her daughter.
My God.
And said, "Oh, you're a threat."
Yeah.
To your daughter. Yeah. For not wearing, and get this, she was across the street from the school dropping the child off. And even though she was across the street, the school still thought they had authority to come in and go on other public property, not even their own, to then, call authorities on somebody, not even on their own property, that wasn't wearing a mask, that dropped it. But they drove together in the school. Her daughter, who was going to school, had the mask on. She was the driver, didn't have the mask on. And then all that unfurled. So you can see the direction that we're going, that, a parent, I would be terrified if I was a parent at this day and age right now, because anything you do, say, social media is being tracked. You say the wrong thing on social media, they come and grab your kids. You say anything like, I don't know if we should trust this new vaccine thing. It looks a little untested for me. Well, that's an anti-vax statement, and they come and take your kids. You're not wearing a mask because you feel like, hey, I forgot it or whatever. They check you at a stoplight. You go to drop your kid off at school. You go to the supermarket, no mask. Child Protective Services at your door. Oh, you're a threat now. It's like everything they're doing is taking your children away. It's like the state stepping in, because this new world that we're moving to retrain the children for the next generation we're the threat because we have common sense and we've seen the old world. We're trying to indoctrinate everybody into this brand new reality that exists, that's a separation from what we grew up with. And it's like that plastic wall. It's literally that diametrically opposite. You can sort of see through it, but you're not going to connect to the other side. So we, as the older generation, are a huge threat to these young kids. And I had a conversation with somebody, and I explained my premise that they wanted to wipe out as many old people as they could in the nursing homes because they're the biggest threat.
Yeah.
They have sway over the grandkids. They have an enormous amount of common sense. They've seen the switch from conservatism to extreme drug use and sexuality through the 60s. And then they've seen it and they see these giant changes happening again. And they're the ones who can dictate it best, explain it the best through 90, 80 years of life that, there's something very wrong here. And they can tell the grandkids, don't listen to that. Don't believe what they're telling you, because grandparents have a huge sway, even sometimes more than regular parents do.
Yeah.
There's that grandma's kind of cool, the grandpa's cool, the uncle's cool, but the parents are too strict, whatever. A lot of times kids bond outside the parents way more with the relatives than they do with the parents. So, you've seen this gigantic cult of a huge amount of old people in nursing homes. They don't want that information passed down either. I think there's a gigantic rift going to get rid of all old world, old knowledge, old remembrance, and then bring it up into these new kids separated, brought into whatever facilities taken from their parents, put into, inoculated, and all these kind of crazy things moving forward. Like, I'm glad I'm older not older, but I mean, right. Give me another 20, 30 years on the planet, and it's good. But some strange changes going around. I think it's time we take all of our sovereignty back and just say enough of this silliness.
There's a lot more to that story about the kid that got taken away. I listened in on the court hearing, and the judge, in my opinion, is a lunatic. But basically, it wasn't even that the kid was dropped off at school. See, the teachers were paying attention to the mother's social media page, and she posted a picture of a pre-emergency time of her just having a good time with her friends. And the judge decided that not only were they going to take her kid away, but that the judge put in the orders that she was deemed a danger until the pandemic ends, which, as you can tell from all the media sources, will be never. So basically, they've taken the child away forever. And then on top of that, said that she can't even visit. And, because she doesn't want to wear a mask at all now. And it had nothing to do with that in the beginning. But now she just doesn't want to. The judge has ordered that she'll never get to see her kid again unless it's under supervised visitation. And that she will wear a mask as a point to tell her that you will or you won't get to meet your kid. And then on top of that, she can't have visitation back or have her kid back until they vaccinate the child. So this is a court-mandated vaccination of a child. So if you had any idea or, thoughts that you had any kind of parental rights, you might want to rethink that, because that's not the world we're living in anymore. And to your point about the old people, I've been saying that forever. They're a treasure trove of old world knowledge. And without them, without the lessons that they've passed on, we're basically an ignorant society about to get totally reset. And what better way to do that but to fill children's heads full of nonsense? It's been empire after empire that has always started with the children. And it's pretty much a fact that if you can brainwash a whole generation of children, within 20 years, you have changed the culture, the country, and the way of life in any place. And you can ask the people who lived in, like 1915 in Germany, what they thought would happen within 20 years. And, we all know that story. Hello? Are you still there? No, looks like we lost David again. Weather messed up. But anyway, yeah. So throughout Alabama, a bunch of people already dead. I showed you guys that a little while ago. So up into Tennessee, we're going to have lots of tornadoes. Is it abnormal? I don't know, because, it's spring. And if you live in Tornado Alley, it's obvious that cold weather and hot weather are going to combine to put little fingers of God down on the earth. that's really the non-judgmental type of judgment. So wherever that thing lands, people are devastated. It's going to be unique because I think we're not going to have more and more tornadoes or more powerful tornadoes. It's the fact that we're going to have tornadoes in different places because of different weather patterns. So new people are going to get to experience what those in Oklahoma, Texas, and other places have in the past. Um, and I'm sure that in those places, like other places, they probably don't have tornado insurance because they never had one in their area. And even the people that live in Tornado Alley, for whatever reason, that keep building there in the same type of trailer homes and wood frame houses, they just get blown away. And they should really think about turning to a different whole lifestyle too. It's been proven that domed housing works better in these kind of environments, underground or partially underground houses. And you would think that with all the regulations that the government puts on people about building and building codes and property codes that they put on there, that it would have already been legislated a long time ago. If the interest of the government was indeed to keep the people safe, they would have started mandating that there are tornado proof homes all through that area, which obviously there would be a great number of people that couldn't afford those homes. And that's the same thing that they're doing from coast to coast is through legislation. They're making it impossible for people to do things. Like I own a piece of land up on the mountains near me and I can't do anything on it because there are so many rules meant to keep people with lower incomes out of the area. It's like rules like you have to use a certain kind of metal that's expensive for your roofs. You have to match everyone else's style. You can't have this, you can't have that. You have to pay a contractor to do every little single thing. So it not only takes out the ability of a person to own their own property, live on their own property, and build on their own property as they see fit. There are popping up laws around the country where you can't even live on your property unless you have enough money to build the kind of habitation that they want. So we're getting into some really scary water, so to speak. Not the Al Gore kind. I'm sorry, Al. Let's see if David is back on the line here.
Yeah, and I dropped in right on that last second there, and anything that's outside the norm these days seems to be, well, naughty here. I wanted to drop you in. Yeah, and if you're not even allowed to own your own private property and stay there because you haven't built a house on it, knowing that contractors are a minimum of 3 years behind on getting things built, they're already preventing people from moving out on the land and having sort of makeshift. Like, what if you want to bring your own camper out there? Are you now allowed to bring your own RV and roll it up in and then just bring some electricity out there and install a septic and get the $300 permit and put it in and have electric and water and all that? Nope. You got to have a house. See, they already took out 20% of the people buying land off the cuff right now. If those are the kind of laws, that's crazy. But, you and I talk about censorship quite a bit here. And here's the new one. This is off Mike Adams' site up at Natural News. Hey, Mike, I'm a fan. He's got some good quality information. I know not everybody likes everything that he puts out, but I think there's some nuggets within his site for sure. Now, here's a new one that he has coming. This is out earlier today. The Securities and Exchange Commission now silencing people who criticize an overvalued market bubbles, or market manipulation by the federal government, money printing on social media. So a guy named Michael Burry, he's a huge skeptic on market conditions at the moment. He's like, man, it's overvalued. It's going to crash more than 2008-9. Look at all these signs. We're heading toward Weimar style hyperinflation with all the money printing. Twitter censored him. And this is the new thing. Economists talking about how overinflated the market are now at the behest of being censored on social media. You knew it was going to go that way eventually. So you can't even talk about the economy anymore without being censored. Like, it can only fit the narrative. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. I saw this, my eyes rolled, and I knew we were at the very end of our society. At the end of the Roman Empire, when I saw this one where you're not going to be able to talk about the economy, I kind of looked at that and said, that was a chess piece on the board knocking over that says checkmate. Something you're not allowed to even talk about money anymore without being censored. We've definitely entered an era now where you realize You're on your own. And I'm wondering if government really can come and still confiscate your land or not. Do they have enough agents to come out there to come and take your land away? Because a lot of sheriffs aren't going to put these mandates by the IRS, et cetera, to come and seize your land in order, because there's too much stuff going on with COVID and all this money printing and everything. So I'm just curious. Can't talk about it in ransom. So if we talk about the market about to crash in April because of this stuck artificial fake shortage of oil I'm telling you, I really truly feel this Suez Canal blockage is a fake event. I mean, it's a real event, but it was staged to cause that thing to lock in place as the catalyst to delay the oil for at least 15 days from circulating around the planet. So think about that. If the oil gets shut off for 15 days, what kind of crush is that going to have on the economy? And we're not even allowed to talk about it without being censored on social media.
Yeah, and I'm showing everybody the picture of this evergreen barge, I'm not sure what you call that, shipping frigate or whatever it is. You see all those Connex boxes on it, not going anywhere. But
18,000.
Yeah, if you look at the picture here, it looks like they could, with a couple tugboats, they could easily just move it and then send it on down its way. But the way it's lodged in there, like you said, kind of looks like they parked it. They parked it and blocked it off like a blockade. This looks like a small naval blockade. Because that way, and it's weird that I was just looking at these pictures of all these tornadoes damage here. And I'll play that for everybody while we're talking there. You notice that this is happening and right on cue, right after the lumber prices skyrocketed. So it almost tells me that there are not only throwing a wrench into people trying to build new things, but they want to make sure that the right people make billions of dollars off of tragedy here. And you can see this nice upper middle class neighborhood, maybe even a little more than that. Looks like maybe, $2 million homes, or depending on where you're at. Here, this would be like a $200,000 home. But they're totally wiped out, destroyed. They're gone. And hopefully they have insurance, because a lot of people don't even buy insurance for these type of things.
Well, if you paid cash for your home, but if you're going to finance it, they're going to require insurance. There's an extra $1,500 down the drain every month. Look at the cost of living here in the States. It keeps going up and up, and then the electricity prices are going up. How long before the insurance prices go up? Luckily I built out, I'm not going to say a lot, but, an enormous amount on the farm here, enough to where, if I'm going with the pole barns, I'm going to go metal, because wood's too expensive now.
Yeah.
And all these laws where you can't live on your land unless you build a house, like they're going to restrict an enormous amount of movement out of the cities by, saying some of these ridiculous laws. Now, not every state is the same, but to tell people they can't live on their land until they have a fully built house on there, that's going to take away 20% of the people moving across the nation to get into farmland or rural properties. There's no way. I don't know how many times I see up here in Tennessee, the last pieces of property for sale are, hill land. Yeah. I saw this piece of property, it was 44 acres. They wanted almost $4,500 an acre, and it's 100% hills. I mean, you'd have to get in 50 grand into a dozer the first day to even, get some sort of driveway up in there and then flatten off a hilltop to even put a camper up there.
Yeah.
And these are the and I see this enormously. It's so common here, where the only pieces of property left are the hillsides. So the dozer operators are overworked. You can barely squeeze them in unless they're a friend, and they're like, man, I just need a break and chill, and I'll come off to your property because I already know you. I've done business with you a few times. But otherwise, their stories are, 18-hour days, working with lights at night, trying to still doze out property for people who just bought stuff. It's off the hook. And at least Tennessee does not have that law, and Arkansas does not. And some of these more southeast U.S. states, you own your property, you own your property. You can do, if you want to live in a tent on your property for years, whatever. If you want to dry deer meat out in front of your tent and living out of a stream, cool. but it doesn't seem like that for a lot of things. And the pinch in progress is here. And, this realization of this last week, yeah, we're kind of getting pinched and we're on our own here. And that whole, if the oil cuts off, that is going to be the catalyst for the gigantic reset here economically. And it will involve crypto and precious metals, but the shakeout of everybody's, then watch this. With the economic collapse, they're suddenly going to probably say, oh, the rent moratorium's lifted and all these things. So those of you normal people who are paying the rent of all those squatters that are living in your houses, suddenly you have to pay your rent. You have to pay your mortgages. There's no moratorium on that, and everybody will lose everything. The squatters will be on the street. The people who own their houses previously will be without a house because they couldn't pay the mortgage, all because of this collapse thing, and there'll be no moratorium for anybody during the collapse and reset. And guess who will be there to swipe it all up for like 1,000th of a cent on the dollar? Our favorite banking partners. This is the way and the direction I think I see it going. There'll be no moratorium during the economic collapse. Everything will be fire sailed out, and everybody, whatever happens with them, best of luck. What kind of society do you think we'll be left with? Little energy, little supply chain, banks own everything, government owns everything. Oh, wait, that sounds exactly like that video I saw where that one dude, beta male, says, oh, you'll own nothing and you'll be super happy in 2030. That's exactly the playbook I see moving forward from now, like 2 weeks from now, the beginning of it. Maybe I'm spending too much time in nature reconnecting back with source. I don't know.
There's an aspect I think people aren't paying attention to it. I know I sent you the article, and the title says, Going to Get Ugly, Global Plastic Shortage Triggered by Texas Deep Freeze. So
gonna get ugly. It's already kind of ugly.
Yeah. But what's funny about that is you were mentioning the backup in the supply of oil that seems to be, planned. It's at the same time as this. And if anybody doesn't know, plastic comes from petroleum. We make plastic out of petroleum. So not only are you going to have food prices going up, but look at this added basic tax. I'm going to say it's a tax because whenever they change the prices of things like plastic, every single item at the grocery store is going to cost more. Every little thing that's packaged with a little bit of plastic, or, maybe you're working on your house and you're trying to put up new siding. Guess what? That's a petroleum product. You want to buy new tires for your tractors and your cars. Guess what? Petroleum. All of those things are going to skyrocket because a supposed shortage triggered by a deep freeze that wasn't really that crazy because, it wasn't but 100 years ago that happened. So all of these people knew that it was very possible and cyclical that it would do that. And, like right now, they're trying to still convince us that the planet is, warming out of control. Meanwhile, in places like Denver, they're a couple feet short of their all-time record of snow per year. And we just had another freeze here. I was kind of expecting that because we usually do have one around this time. But what if we have one more and everybody that's so used to planting right after this last freeze will get another surprise possibly of a bunch of stuff lost? Maybe not where I live, but in a lot of other places. I wouldn't count winter out quite yet. However, right along the border, like you said, they're having extremely hardcore electrical storms and tornadoes landing. And a bizarre thing that I've been noticing is when I was a kid growing up here, one of the most spectacular things of New Mexico was the fact that we're at a high elevation and we have extremely strong electrical storms. Now, for whatever reason, in the past, I'm going to say 10 years, we haven't had a normal monsoon through this area, and also not the electrical storms. And if people, don't know that, every time a lightning strikes, it produces quite a bit of ozone that is beneficial for the sky. And then you got people like Bill Gates and all these other people with the go-ahead from governments to start putting particulates out. It really makes me think that they're trying to push what's going to happen and make it even worse than it was going to be. Like, we're sitting around in 2024 and the weather's changing, and then all of a sudden you got all this added debris up in the sky. It may not do anything now, but let's start adding a bunch of smoke. Let's start adding a bunch of ash. Let's start adding all of these things in the air and see if the temperature doesn't start plummeting. We saved you from.
Oh,
We saved you.
Bill Gates did. Oh, yay! The globalist, David Keith, and the atmospheric marauders, they all did it. Oh, they're such heroes! Yay! We should applaud them and have days for the heroes. They're heroes, and they're going to ride on top of a natural cycle, because if you haven't seen the 26 currently erupting volcanoes, and I just did a video this week on the more than dozen eruptions in the last 3 weeks here in March, above 40,000 feet. They even captured, Himawari satellite captured the volcanic eruption from Etna, the particulates over the Great Lakes. So, I mean, in earnest, it's swirling around the globe now. So you can expect cooling, and then there's this whole thing called, quote unquote, polar spring. And all the news media, at least in the UK and across Europe, is starting to pick up and ping this word, polar spring. Look for this. Because they're understanding that these volcanic aerosols are going to cool. There's an Arctic dome right over Europe as well. And the Northern Hemisphere is going to have a real difficult time getting into like regular planting dates this year. And, if it does cool, they can always say, yeah, it was geoengineering. And because we cooled the atmosphere and we stopped the runaway extinction level of the event, you have to keep paying us in perpetuity forever and ever and ever and ever, just like COVID, forever and ever and ever and ever. And it'll never stop. And you're going to have to, we need a global tax. Well, at that point, there should be no CO2 tax. If they're going to claim, stratospheric aerosol geoengineering and particle injections cooling the atmosphere, and that's like a $50 billion a year program that's running worldwide, then you don't need my tax money because you solved the problem. And $50 billion is what the Fed is printing in like 6 minutes or something. Because they're going to add another $3.3 trillion this year. Trillion, another 3.3. I was actually looking at some articles, numbers. Between 2020 and projected 2021, they're going to put 6.5 trillion into new circulation. So, 50 billion to run a program to cool the skies. We don't need a CO2 tax then. Problem solved. Night, night. See you later. But who's riding on top of a natural cycle? And yes, if Pinatubo goes off, if like any of these are larger volcanoes in Iceland, like Katla's, another well-known volcano that's going to send temperatures plummeting globally. And that volcanic area in the southwest of Iceland, that whole peninsula, those volcanoes that just woke up and just erupted, not since the first time in 800 years have they erupted. So these cycles are natural. The politicians and the globalists and the elite are riding on top of the natural cycle. And I absolutely agree with you, Ransom. I absolutely agree. Maybe they're putting more particulates up there to make the cooling effect even heavier. Because many years ago, when I was doing a video calling out David Keith and their band of marauding atmospheric pirates up there, saying that, what if Pinatubo went off again and they had already injected an enormous amount, enough to cool the planet for a couple of years, and then we get a huge 70, 80, 120,000 foot eruption that would cool the planet half a degree. You had all the aerosols up there. So how long is that really going to take to come out? It would amplify. It wouldn't be a plus plus. It would be an X multiplicative. So instead of cooling, maybe they put enough aerosol up there to cool the planet half a degree. Pinatubo, for example, in the 90s, because we have solid numbers for that, cooled the planet a half a degree. But what if it really isn't like that with those two combined? Perhaps they multiply and we get a 1.5 degree cooling or a 2 degree cooling off the same amount, because there's going to be some interaction up there. So it's very possible, if you're an elitist and you want to cull the planet, of course you would make it a cooler, faster, ridiculously like cliff off plunge straight into cooling, straight into food shortages. Within months, it would go from where we are now, some sort of food availability, into global panic within a month or two. So you better have some poly sheet, and you better have some cattle panels and a few pieces of lumber rod, because you're going to only be able to grow your food under cover.
What's funny is you kind of agreed with me, but what you said right there, right after I said that, makes more sense to me than anything ever. It's just like you made me have an epiphany. Because I've done a lot of studying into chemtrails, blah blah blah, and I found that a lot of people don't realize the scale of the planet of Earth. So it's really doubtful that even most of the stuff that they're playing with will affect anything greater than like one little pattern in a local area, kind of like the Ho Chi Minh Trail. However, what you said makes a lot of sense. What if you got a bunch of elitists that are doing a bunch of programs promising to cool the planet right before the planet cools itself? And then, they will be screaming how right they were about the global warming and that they saved you and that they're going to need more taxes for more of these programs to keep you safe from a burning planet, which is cooling down naturally already. I mean, that even made more sense. Talk about a big hoax. What if you convinced the whole world that you fixed a problem that you didn't do anything really to? It was just, it was already fixing itself because the earth does what the earth does whenever the sun tells it to do it. And we know that's true for all the planets. When the sun decides to do something, it's going to be the decider. It doesn't matter how much CO2 or whatever we're putting out is all microscopic compared to the amount of any of these volcanoes at any time. It's like all of human history, all of the CO2 we put out. They've had other people try to argue that we put out all the CO2, but the math is there. You get 4 or 5 big explosions from a volcano, and that's like multiplied anything that humans have ever done on this earth. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. That why not come along and just take credit for nature and say that you're the savior? That, hey, well, look, we put sulfur in New Mexico. Bill Gates did. And then in other places we put out ash, and in other places we put out little particulates. We're helping save the planet from you pesky citizens that keep breathing and passing gas and growing cattle and yada, yada, yada. But don't worry, we'll fix it and thank you for the tax. I mean, that is brilliant, really.
But the corporations keep advertising and selling bits of junk. That's the whole problem, is they keep in this consumerist society to continue to buy new stuff, yet they chastise you for buying it. They're the ones producing it.
Yeah.
And the cycle is, it's almost a psychological operation where buy new stuff, it's on sale, get 2, you need a new thing, Christmas, buy. And then the next thing, oh, you're killing the planet. How dare you, such a horrible human, you're killing the planet. Wait a second. This mixed message thing is a hoax. And you hit it on the head. If they knew the planet was going to change due to natural solar cycles and going into grand solar minimums, or something more intense on a really like a 2,000 or a 4,000 year cooling episode, you would have to have an excuse, because everybody in the beginning would see these changes. Like we're right now starting to see the changes. If in the world had never, ever, ever mentioned CO2, and you never knew anything about climate change, and it was never an issue, and it really wasn't something, you would have noticed the weather changed a lot right now and the climate shifted, and you'd be asking why. But there was already a ready-made excuse for you. And see, that's what I think they got you from the very beginning of it. These elitists knew, and the power brokers knew. Are you kidding me? They pillaged artifacts for 500 plus years across how many continents? They know the cycles. You think all these ancient historical relics didn't contain these cycles in it? And how much of human history has been buried? And I don't mean buried under earth, but I mean hidden from us in museums and Vatican libraries and all these kind of private collections, etc. Smithsonian Institute, there's like a list, small list, that knows the true cycles and the onset of them. We've been played left, right, and center. I'm your host, David Devine, here in Ice Age Conversations with Ransom Godwin. We're going to try to hold on the air as long as we can. Coming back, interference left, right, and center in our broadcast. Back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds right here on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio Studio A. Listener supported. Please consider a donation to keep this information flowing. See you after the break.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
All right, we're muted. We're on live. Let's see what's going on in the chat room. Did you see the baby wrapping plastic? I'm just saying. Lee Hon here. Lehan Hiller? That's like cream of the young guy. Cool. Yeah, I guess, I don't know what happened. On my old channel, I could wrench everybody forever, but it looks like they put a cap on the amount of wrenches that we can have in here. Well, YOLO, Top Knot, what'd it be? Now, there's a farmer. You guys should watch his channel. He knows what's up. And he's already living the lifestyle that a lot of people want to live. You blame cow farts too? I mean, if you've ever been around a cow right when it busted ass, I could see why it would be easy for you to be convinced that we need to reduce cow farts. You know, when the little moist parts like peanut butter kind of fly out when they lift their tail and it's just like, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever milked a cow, you know what I'm talking about, which I have. I used to work on a dairy farm. I've done actually a lot of farm work for being a city boy, from gang banging to, wrangling steer. That's just how it does. Life is weird like that. Bill Sibley, what's going on? Robert and Kelly, Scratch, what it be? What it was? Simon, what's going on? Thanks for joining this Miac live transmission, which will be moving to a new channel. So here soon, I'm going to advertise another channel, which will be just this obscene news. And the channel you're watching on right now is just going to be the music channel. And I get enough grief just from my music videos. I don't know how many have been banned because they don't like the way I put sounds and imagery together. Because I can convey a message to you without saying anything. And it is funny, how they're pushing this weird narrative about, they're going to fix the weather for you. So you can believe that. It's the Church of Science. They're going to fix the weather for you, and then you're going to owe them your life after that. I mean, and just think about the idiocy of a carbon tax in the first place. That is definitely, without any argument, a tax on breathing. That means that every time you exhale, they're trying to put a price on that, a dollar amount, so that they could charge you for that. Just like driving by the mile, but now it's like charging you for breathing. How much is your breath worth? Not that much, evidently, because a lot of people are being forced to stop breathing, if you know what I'm saying. And the population plateau is coming up. That's a mathematical thing. They've known it for a long time. The weird thing is, it seems like the world government and the governments of the world that are, working with them are kind of helping along this plateau in different ways, if you know what I'm saying. Let's see here. I think we're almost back. It's a tax on life. Exactly. We are carbon. That is exactly right, Gilgamesh. Yeah, they think more than just us owing our lives. They think maybe that's what you meant. They think they own our lives. They think we are property and we are cattle. So when they talk about reducing cattle emissions, what they're really talking about is you and your emissions. You should really look into the word inspiration and conspiracy and conspiring and expiring. And it's all about your breath. Everything we do is about your breath. And that's what they want to charge you. They want to tax that. They want to make you a slave to a system where you're charged for all of your perspiration, respiration, and all of that. Are they going to want to capture the farts? I don't know. Here's a funny thought for you. What if a bunch of farmers were out in a field with big pickle jars, and they shove them right on the cow's ass so they could trap them there farts, saving the environment? We'll trap all them farts in a big pickle jar, and we'll save the planet. Sure. Just joking.
Your host, David Devine, right along with Ransom Godwin for 420 TV Freedomist Films. Please remember, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, listener supported, and with the calls now to even censor business news, you're not allowed to talk about the economy being a bubble or overinflated and earnings from companies being, out of kilter because so much money is being shoved in there from the Fed. That's being censored on Twitter now and Facebook, both, for talking about how the economy is operating. We're in a banana republic. So if you're interested in keeping information flowing like these types of conversations, please consider a donation. You'll find many different ways that you can keep this station on air and operational. You know, there's a lot of cost to keeping the servers up and running, keeping the ads up and running, just like you see on any other venue. Advertisers bring in the money to continue operations. Freedomslips.com, right there at the top. Donate. We're going to continue on with our conversation, you know, and that is no joke. They are now censoring news of you talking about a possible market correction because of an incredible super cycle bubble of never-ending money printing. Now that's deemed illegal to talk about. I literally shake my head when I look at some of these topics. You know, talking about how the society is moving, okay, that's one thing, but you're really talking about the valuation of a company, earnings per share. Like, how simple is that on the markets? And you're not allowed to talk about that if you're saying the wrong thing. Well, I think it's a little overinflated because we're going into a hyperinflation event. Do you see that everything that you're buying in your life is incredibly more expensive? It's not that it's really more expensive. They just printed so much money that the value has the dollar's not worth as much. And this is affecting the earnings per share. And you're not allowed to talk about that. Oh, you bad. You should be put in a camp and re-educated. You should only listen to the narrative given forth by the mainstream media, and that is the only thing you should believe. Extra money into companies to boost the earnings and keep the value of the shares stable and increasing every day is real life. Do not question it. Do not ask why the market is increasing. Do not ask why your lives are becoming more expensive and why the supply chains have broken down globally. You question that, you're censored now. So before we went on the break, I was trying to add a little method into the madness of the CO2 debate here. You know, they're going to ride on, the elitists and global bankers are going to ride on top of the natural cycle and then claim that they solved the problem to cool the planet, when in actuality, all the volcanic eruptions are going to do it for us. Plus, the cosmic rays are adding in an entirely new cloud layer around, say, 15,500 feet to 18,000, somewhere in that range. Some claim it's a little higher in altitude. I've heard 18 to 21,000 feet, but most, people that I do see, they call them mid-level. So we're saying, say, 15 to 18,000 feet, just in a generality there. The incredible amount of cosmic rays coming in due to the sun decreasing in its magnetic field decreases our Earth's magnetic field. Cosmic rays are coming in. They're creating more cloud cover. This is why a lot of places are getting more rainfall. There's an enormous amount of flights that have been taken down due to hail events. And not a little bit uptick, but exponentially year upon year of flights being emergency landed because of hail events and damage mid-flight. So not only do we have the volcanic eruptions, which are going to continue up to 2024, this is just the beginning of the Earth changes with volcanic eruptions. Then we got the cosmic rays putting in a whole nother cloud layer. And now these idiots want to go up there and seed the clouds and put in aerosols and particulates and nanometals, which brings me to a point here. I've also heard that the injection of these metals, and we've all heard the stories, nanometals. We got the barium, the strontium, and the aluminums that are being injected up there with these programs for stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, aerosol injection. Some of the thought process is that these nanometals up there are to nullify the charge of an incoming positively charged cosmic ray, positively charged proton, whatever it is, whatever kind of cosmic rays aren't just one thing. There's an enormous amount of types, from the alphas, X's, and you can just list down a fair few of those and they all come under the umbrella of a cosmic ray. So to stop the charge of that coming into our atmosphere and creating even more clouds, which is now known to be 7x more than they originally thought, which is light bulb went on in a bad way there, kind of a black light more or less. That they're putting up these nanometals to nullify charge of cosmic rays coming in to stop that initial muon that comes in, slams up into the atmosphere, discharges off and cascades down through, then creates the very base, positive, negative for some other small particle to jump onto that and create a base or something else to create a water droplet off of. I put the nanometals up there. So I've been told, I've had a fair few conversations about this, read a bunch, tried to verify it. I can't. But the hearsay I was told by several people that I think are pretty knowledgeable was that they can't stop because the cosmic rays coming in are going to create 7x more clouds, and it'll be so noticeable going to a cloud planet. So I don't know even what to believe anymore. And half the people I talk to that I think are the experts, there's so much information out there on what it is. It's like an explanation for everything. So the CO2 to explain away the changes that were coming. And just before the break, Ransom and I were talking about, through the last 500 years of pillaging of all cultures across the planet in the names of XYZ religions and, conquests and nations and kings and queens. And there's all these labels you could put for 500 years of death, destruction, genocide, and the ultimate pillaging of all resources and wealth out of any culture in the last 500 years. That all ended up somewhere in the hands of a very few, and we can name them right now: National Geographic, Smithsonian, Vatican Library, private collectors, and that whole echelon of museums associated with those same centralized authority positions. They know the time duration of these onsets of these events. Are you kidding me? 500 years of going around the entire planet and finding all the codices, all the stories, all of the knowledge of what would have been, the medicine man or the star watchers, or there's so many names for these people that knew the cycles of the heavens. These cycles have been mapped out for sure, absolutely to the T of years between cycles. I'm saying, without a doubt, the cycles were known. It was known that we're coming into an incredibly heavy cycle again, whether it's a 2,000 year or a 4,000 year cooling, or we're slipping back into an ice age and we step down in cooling considerably and we don't come back for 100,000 years. Whoever has all this information understands this point in time right now, there's no coming back from what we're going into. So the amount of change that you're seeing right now is a result of that. It can't be salvaged anyway, so why try to salvage it? Move to a new system completely, because the old won't work. But like the frog in the boiling pot, they had to give you an excuse. That's called CO2, global warming, all these changes that we squandered, 20 years of preparing our lives and communities and cities and resiliency and self-sufficiency when we could have gotten ready for all these changes. And we sit here at the precipice, and now we're relying on supply chains that are breaking down when we could have gotten ready and had our own food growing areas and had our own resilient communities that didn't need supply chains except for the very biggest things like metal that we couldn't smelt in our own neighborhoods. This is where we're stuck now. And suddenly now the central banks even want a global carbon tax. Like, what has broken? These cycles are known. And just like Ransom was talking about, something nefarious this way comes. The explanations are all out there. The explanation for the changes you would have seen from, let's say, the year 2000 to now was the ready-made excuse of global warming. They tried to blame you, the human. But at the same time, they kept hitting you with advertisements again and again and again. Buy this, buy that, sale on this, get to Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, whatever. Summer holiday travel, go do it, get everything, buy extra, get 2 pairs of clothes. Ooh, it's new shopping season, new shopping season, new shopping season. Oh, wait, stop, you're a bad person, global warming, CO2. And it was like that, back and forth for these last 20 years. If in earnest it was really a problem, the factories should have shut down, right? But they didn't. And now we sit at this point right now, when everything is flipping and changing. The elitists are going to take credit for cooling the planet when it's all volcanoes anyway coming up. And this economic system can't be salvaged. The present way of life has to switch immensely because the old debt system's not going to function anymore. And there's always these ready-made excuses for all these changes instead of just coming clean with the populace. Like, all right, between now and 2024, you're going to see this planet shake to its core. You're going to see earth slips, mud volcanoes, sand volcanoes, earth cracks, that crazy video that you saw coming out of Norway. I hope everybody watches that landslide just take away a lake. That was the most insane video.
Whoa.
And the volcanoes are going to continue to the point where it's going to choke out the atmosphere. And when the only way you're going to grow food is in a greenhouse, or you're going to starve to death. So you understand where we're going with this down now to 2024. You either get ready or you're not ready. Governments know that nobody can be safe. Very few people are going to be safe through this entire transition here. Those who prepare will be, the rest will not. And you got to look at it from that. You got 8 billion people, less than 1 billion will be prepared. So you as a global government or a governance system, whatever you want to call it, what are you going to do? These changes are real. They're so vast. They're so all-encompassing. They're so just gargantuanly society changing, rifts and ripping apart of the shreds of society, the way everything functions. That we're at that point now where, these last few weeks of seeing things go, it's unsalvageable. Please get ready. There's nothing left there. You get ready now with whatever resources you have available, because between now and 2024, these next 3 years, the governments are going to go insane and try to lock more people down. They're just going to do so many things to distract you from getting ready. And when the changes come, they're just going to pull up the drawbridge off the moat, and you're on your own out here. And this is why we come together every a week to try to go through these events and try to try to connect some dots. And Ransom, I talked too long, man. Just had a little bit too much wine tonight, maybe. But the thunderstorms, the frogs out back, just got the orchard planted. I've seen a lot of changes. There's some weird stuff going on this planet right now this week. And please take over, man. I'm gonna have a little drink here.
All right, so let's get into something weird. I really wanted to hear your thoughts on. Let me see if I can find the article. I'm not, by chance, you know the name of the guy that's on InfoWars, that's the constitutional lawyer, the guy with the beard there. I forgot his name, but anyway, let me see if I can find the article here.
Who, David Knight?
No, not David Knight. I still haven't figured out why they fired him, but no, it's I forgot his name here. I opened the wrong tab here. Give me 1 second. Basically, what he's doing is suing the private bank. We all know which bank I'm talking about. Over their secrecy. And what they're attempting to do, I guess in my opinion, is force the bank to not give over records proving that they're in violation of the law, because of course they're not going to give over anything when they file this lawsuit. Yeah, for some reason I lost the article here. It's crazy. But basically, yeah, that's what it is. They're going to take them to court and sue that private bank. We all know the one that makes the little pieces of paper that everybody's lives, revolve around, and they tell us how much that piece of paper's worth and all that. But basically, they're suing them over secrecy because we all know that they're secret. And not only do the people not get to know what they're doing or why they're making their decisions or who's running it or who the beneficiaries are, I guess, of that bank. We don't get to know any of that. No one does, not even our government. So they're suing them on this point that they don't give over FOIA records and all of this and stuff like that. So they're going to try to make them admit in court that they constantly violate the law by not being open, and furthermore proving that they're not even part of the government like they claim to be. What do you think about that? And do you think, I'm pretty sure it won't go anywhere, but it's just someone came up with a great idea to litigate, and it seems like that's our last avenue, because a lot of people don't know that the world elite follow one set of laws, and it's not the laws of the land and the country you live in. You could probably go all the way back to Inky coming out of the sea, because if you're into that line of thought in history, you'll know that the first place that someone landed, evidently, or at least mythologically, however you want to look at it, was in the water. So they had to have a set of laws there to govern them, and they came up with what I believe is called maritime law. And every nation in the world since antiquity has always recognized maritime law, and that's actually what banking recognizes. And that's the reason that we call money currency. That's the reason every saying that you've ever heard about money has to do with water. So water is life, and they've tried to replace water with a different kind of current, a different kind of currency. So, like, if you're in debt, you're below water, and all of these other sayings that goes along with having money. It's going to be interesting to force it out that they don't even follow our laws, and they follow maritime laws. And it's interesting that in this change of the planet, we're pumping all of these ideas about Mars and the moon and colonization. And if you've ever took the time to pay attention, you'll realize that all the places on Mars and the moon are named after water. They're oceans, they're seas. And the reason for that is because they're already claiming maritime law on other planets because space is an ocean. And if you had a bunch of ships, you would call it a navy in space. And I think that's ironic. I've joked a long time about why don't they just fly a drone around Mars and really give us a look. So now but I have a feeling that they're not really going to show you anything. Either it's going to crash, or it's just going to be pictures of the little area around the drone, and it's just going to be a bunch of desert rocks, whatever. What do you think about that? I know that was a lot to cram into one idea, but everything from the private banking to maritime law, and then the changeover into our exploration of space, or at least the propaganda of doing that. Hello? All right, we might be alone. Anyway, I'll go find this article here about the Mars stuff here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Mars, where are you, Mars? Oh, before we get there, let's talk about this. Would you get your COVID vaccine from your dentist? That sounds like a reasonable idea. It's really non-threatening. It's somebody that you already trust to kind of do surgeries on you. Why not? That sounds totally legit to me. California roller coasters. I wanted to bring this up because, according to this article right here, California roller coaster rides are not banned from screaming because of COVID-19. And when you go down to the bottom here, they give you a bunch of sources, which happen to be also them. So you go over here to this other one. Japan did make a rule for it, so that is true. And if you read this article, it goes down and it explains that in an attempt to prevent droplets from going, they indeed did, which is funny because this is the source for the other article saying that the other article, that it's a conspiracy theory. And then when you read in this one, you'll read that, well, no, they really did want to know if they could muzzle people from screaming because they're afraid that, so you would send droplets around, right? So, like, they tell you one thing's not real, and then at the same time, they tell you it is real with their source. And if I could find this Mars stuff, I got so many articles, I lost it. Anyway, we'll get back to that. David, are you back? Thought I heard some rustling in the back. Nope. Let's check in with the chat then, see what you guys are doing while I find this article. No laughing at comedy clubs. Yeah, you don't want to laugh or have a good time or get it from the dollar store, which also now is really getting on their customers about coming in. I think it's high time people stop shopping in places that are trying to force mandates that have nothing to do with you, and they don't have the power to do that. The only power that they have is being a private business and having the right to refuse service. But guess what? Did you know that you have the right to refuse them being a customer? You can just tell them no. You can just shop somewhere else. You can just do without or make your own or find some way around these people. And let me find this article about Mars because it was right there. And then, of course, when I wanted to talk about it, it disappeared. Maybe it's back over here. I think I showed it a couple times here already. Nope. Nope. Wow. I got so many articles. But don't worry, if you guys are worried about fake news, you can chomp on this for a minute. Prince Harry joins the Aspen Institute fight against misinformation. So you'll never have to be misinformed again because Oprah and Prince Harry and CNN will all tell you how things are doing. Did you know that if you like cars, that you're a display of toxic masculinity? Let me tell you a little story. When I was growing up here in the late 90s, when I was a young man, this is what we did right here. This is what we did. We hooked up cars. We put Daytons. We put McLeans on them. We put the gold spokes on there, the silver spokes, the chrome spokes. We put the hydraulics on it. We drove around. We looked cool. But evidently, that's toxic, and you can't do that. See, the problem is that they can't call minorities racist. So they have to attack them on other ways, and one of those ways is being male. So that's, if you like nice cars and you display your nice car, you fix up your old car, you're just a display of toxic masculinity. How about that? Isn't that nice? Do you believe Biden? Well, Biden, just like Obama, and this has nothing to do with anything else other than that, in my opinion, these are fake people that study history, study actors, and if you're trying to look, he wants to be FDR. And you can see him with his little racist clovers in his pocket on St. Patrick's Day, because we all know that you can't be displaying that. That's crazy. That might be one of those secret signs or something. I don't know.
What's his legacy going to be?
Here it is. I finally found the article I was wanting to show you right when you got back. It's a massive lawsuit announced to challenge private Federal Reserve secrecy. And I don't know how much you kind of heard of that. I kind of wandered off into Mars and everything. So do you think this will ever go anywhere? Or what do you think about this whole idea of starting to question the government on their own rules and their own system? And we lost him again. Well, don't worry. We'll all get back to normal by 2022 because of vaccines. So don't worry about that. Yeah, that's irritating me. I had all these Mars things all set up for you guys and can't find it. Is it this one? No, that's that one. All right, so it's got to be over here. Yeah, those thunder. Oh, here. Wait, we got to look at this one first right here. Because I know a lot of you guys want to be safe and you want to follow the rules. So check this out. You like to go out and eat. After you get your vaccine and you're fully vaccinated, you can continue to wear your mask for safety, for everyone's safety. And, if you get tired of, moving your mask around or whatever, you can just get this nose-only face mask here. Brought to you by the makers of the full face mask and the double bag. Little joke. This is a nose-only mask so that you can eat at a restaurant while you cover your little nose. And I'm not sure, how that's going to help you, but there it is. It's a new world. It's a brave new world. Government's report says UFOs broke the sound barrier without sonic boom. So another step into admitting that we're going to have to be afraid of aliens soon. You're not already, if they haven't already got you feared. And then I already showed you kind of like the first child born into the Matrix, the girl or the baby in the plastic bubble. Yeah, here it is. Let's check this out right here. So I've been saying this forever about why don't they just send a little drone around Mars and see what's going on there. And allegedly that's exactly what they're going to do with this little helicopter. But I have some kind of weird feeling that we're just never really going to get to see anything cool. Like I could compare side-by-sides of my drone flights with their drone flights, show lots of things. But will they is the question. Because we got to find out what those spiders are on Mars. It might be that because we're going into this cycle, a lot of people forget all of the other planets are going to go through a cycle as well. And what does that mean for places like Mars? Does it mean maybe the water might come out? Does it mean they're going to freeze up? What do you think that means for some of the other planets when they start having their own effects of the sun's cycle? What could we actually find? And maybe that's why they're so excited about actually pretending or maybe really going to Mars finally and finding out what's going on there. It says
They'll probably find a lot more artifacts. You know, Ransom, they'll probably stumble into a bunch of ruins up there and be like, whoa, the
right?
Sumerian tales were true. The gold mining colony.
Wow. You still there? Wow.
They truly ran into a bunch of ruins and cities and previous structures. Like, how would they frame that narrative? Could they possibly even frame that as a narrative?
It's a Lelu, man. It's the guy that got, you know, I know that you know about this story, David, because I've listened to a lot of your shows. So you've had guests on that talk about the battle of Alelu and Anu, and the other one was punished to go live on Mars and allegedly died there. And when the women Anunnaki came to Mars, they recognized that he was the first king to die on another planet and supposedly made him a monument there. You think that could be the face on Mars that we're all, you know, we've all theorized about, and some of the pyramids and stuff like that that look like pyramids there, at least as our own history says, or at least someone's version of history, that someone went there and had a shrine built for them after they did some kind of weird wrestling here on Earth. Hello? And it looks like I'm dropping frames too. Like, what's going on here? The broadcast okay? Because it on my end it says that we're dropping frames, so we may be. Is it just me, or does the stream keep pausing and starting? No, I think it really is. It seems like we're having some kind of technical issues on both ends here. It's been giving you fit for 2 days. What? Well, that's really messed up, ain't it? Yeah, because it just dropped some more frames. Let's see here. Let's see if we can find out what that's about. I guess I would still be broadcasting on Freedom Slip, so I'll just keep talking, even though you rewound a bit. Oh no, I'm rewinding too. So for some reason, we just keep having technical difficulties, and you know, I might be a conspiracy theory, but sometimes I think maybe it might be the subject matter on why we have problems. You just talk about the wrong things at the wrong place, and you seem to have issues on broadcasting. It doesn't seem like I should be having any problems, but I am. Well, we'll try to, you're up here. Anyway, what are they going to find on Mars? I don't know what they're going to find on Mars, but they're probably not going to show us. I mean, and I have to say one thing. In my recent trip to the petroglyphs, I did notice that we found quite a bit of broken rocks that had broke in what seemed to be perfectly cut right angles. And I could see clearly that anybody with an imagination would think that those were man-made or intelligently designed cut rocks. However, when you look at it, there's no tool marks and it just broke off that way from the rock. However, we found several triangles in the rocks and right angles broken into the rocks. So I could see how that one person could argue that, you know, that's your mind seeing those things. However, I've seen some really interesting things on Mars. And, you know, you might find one or two of these things in an area. But when you start lining up 10 or 15 And I'm not talking about like the Jesus on the toast stuff. I mean, like actually things that look like they're intelligently designed. I don't think we're going to get to see any of that with these drones that they're sending up, allegedly, because I have to be a little critical of it. You know that NASA has a history of weird things showing up in their photos, like little lemons, like they might be somewhere here. They've changed the colors because they have a little color chart on some of the drones that tells you, you know, the right color so that they could fix the camera. However, when you look at the photos, the little color code is off because they've changed the atmosphere to more of a red looking look for, I'm going to say, showmanship, because we've always said it's the red planet. And it seems to be, it might be a little bit different actually on the planet than it actually looks to us that are getting the pictures from JPL. And you got to wonder anytime when you only get things from one source, how can you trust those things? Yeah, the Badlands video. Just that's a good example, Scratch. I have a video where me and Rex Bear were running around out in the Badlands in New Mexico, and it totally looks like another planet. As a matter of fact, they filmed an episode of Stargate there. They filmed an episode of Stargate out here at White Sands, where I live, because it also somewhat looks like an alien planet when you're in the right place. And let me see if David's back around or not, because I don't want to just yap on his show the whole time talking about Martians and petroglyphs. Are you there? Hello? Sometimes they don't blur out enough. Yeah, that's true. I think some of those pictures, and I'm going to go out on a limb here with my own opinion and say some of those pictures are rendered from pictures here because it's cheaper than actually flying to Mars or you know, showing us the pictures. I mean, I can give you Mars right now. If you want, matter of fact, let's do an experiment on 420 TV. On one of the next road trips I go on, I'm going to go and I'm going to edit everything as if it's Mars. We'll just add a tent to it. I'll make sure that no one sees any plants, no one sees any animals, and I could say that this is footage from Mars. Real easy. What do you guys think about that? Nothing? You think nothing? Anyway, I'm joking to the chat. Let's go over some more headlines here. I brought up the bill. I mean, the lawsuit that they're going to be doing, and I don't really think it's going to go nowhere. However, I do think it's ingenious. But I want you guys to remember that according to Bill Gates, everything's going to be new and nice by 2022. And all you have to do is go get your medicine. And as I've told you many times now on this new channel, all you have to do is go get your vaccine and you can participate in society with the best of them. You can go to all the best nightclubs. You can eat at all the best diners. You can fly anywhere you want. You can do whatever you want if you just comply. Just comply at a low, low price. This is all we're going to charge you. That price right there includes your breathing and passing gas right there. And you just need to go give it to those local people that I told you about before. Some of the people on the broadcast may be wondering what I'm talking about. I'm talking about communism for a low, low price. And don't worry about it. You don't have to spend your money. We'll just take someone else's because they don't need it. And we can reuse that for a new system. Except for I'm late. I'm too late. They're already doing that. They're already taking your money to create this new system. Let me send a message to David and see what's up. He said he did have some thunderstorms. So that might be the problem. And those thunderstorms and stuff over there in Alabama have killed some people already.
All right, finally reconnected here. Wow.
Well, I just babbled on about Mars for a while, so.
Yeah, no, I tried to drop a comment in there, and I was saying, you know, if they do go up there and they start finding all these ruins, how are they going to build the narrative around that? I mean, they can't. That would shatter religion, and there's no possible way they could go up and then start finding all these ruins. So this pipe dream is sending people up there. They're going to find a lot more than just red rocks. They're going to find vestiges of ancient civilizations up there. And that's going to be real difficult to try to frame that in there on a reference of something like, hey, by the way, we found all these cities in Cydonia, but there was pyramids there. Like, what? I don't know how you did. And it's great to talk about it, but I think we already have stargates, and I think there's already different ways to travel between, because you look a lot of ancient history, and the stargates were the way to go.
And David might have just taken a Stargate to another realm right now, along with SG-1. And that's funny, I brought up Stargate a minute ago about how they were filming those episodes using these remote places on Earth to make it look like it's another planet. It's so frustrating knowing that you can't trust any source for anything, but at the same time, they're the only source that you have to try to figure things out. So, like, when we're talking about space, like I said, you only get NASA JPL photos. There's no competition. I'm not seeing, like, China put out a bunch of photos, or, some of them do, the Canadian Space, but all of those seem to be intertwined as the same agency, as far as I can tell. Poor David. We're gonna have to send him a satellite phone so he can stay on. He probably has one, actually. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Jesus had another flock, someone says. Wow, that's possible. The little waterfalls Lewis and Clark went over have red rocks that look different. There's a place right up near where Diamond and Rex live on the way to go up there that's called Ghost Ranch. And the rocks in that layer are that really, really red rock that I've shown you guys before. And not only that, it must have had some kind of spiritual meaning because all along that layer in the southwest is where the cliff dwellings and a lot of the petroglyphs are right near or around that layer in the rock. So that is kind of bizarre. I want to hear David talk about the underground world because I've been looking for the entrance. Only because I see the writing on the rocks. When you go to a foreign country and you can't understand the language, you can still look at the signs, and some of them have pictographs on them or whatnot, and you can basically figure it out what's going on there. So when I'm looking at these rocks, I do keep in mind that I have no context, and there's no way that I could actually know what they were thinking. Like a picture of, let's say, a rabbit. It might just be a rabbit. But then again, it could be that time that two guys sat together and a rabbit came through and they had a fun time, and they start referencing that period of time as rabbit. They just draw a little rabbit. We really have no reference in context. However, when you see a picture of specific things like certain animals or whatever, you can kind of think, hey, well, those animals live here. Oh, there's a picture of a river. Hey, well, there's a river right there. There's a picture of a mountain. There's a mountain right there. But then you start finding pictures of a mountain with a little entrance. Okay, well, that's weird. But what if you find another one and another one? That's exactly what I've been doing. I've been going around looking at the petroglyphs for certain things. Everybody's looking for the Peratt instabilities. No argument there. They're everywhere, at every spot, a representation of plasma in the sky. There's also weird circles, constellations. Some of them don't match up with the sky. We don't know what their context is or what they're talking about, but some things are down to earth. Some things we can recognize as just being a human being. Like, you could recognize a spot maybe where they were sharpening their tools and realize, somebody sat right here, sharpened tools, flint knapped their little points, and all of that's pretty evident. But when you're looking at some of these pictures and abstract ideas, to really know what they were thinking or talking about is almost impossible. We found everything from Mayan-looking stuff to Aztecs-looking stuff. And in my opinion, it's probably 5 or more different peoples went to some of these same spots putting art on the walls. And that might be actually what they were doing there. Meeting, trying to show each other's art, form some kind of communication, possibly if they didn't speak the same language. But there seems to be references, no matter where you go around the world, about underground cities, underground places, underground chambers, and people underground. And I sent some articles to David. I don't know if he got a chance to. I'm talking about a legend of the Cherokee people, which is called the Moon-Eyed People. So the legend goes that the Moon-Eyed People came from inside the earth, or maybe they came from Wales, because a lot of people think they were speaking Welsh. But anyway, they were described as short, skinny, white people with big blue eyes. And they had spent a lot of time underground, according to the Cherokee, which made their eyes not able to come out in the daytime. So they had these big eyes, and they called them the Moon-Eyed People. And allegedly, those people would only come out and tend their farming during the full moons and things like that. So at nighttime, they would come out and do that. So allegedly, at one time or another, either Cherokee or a different band of people allegedly killed these people. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because they allegedly lived inside cave systems throughout the southeast and the central east of the United States. So anywhere from Tennessee all the way down to Alabama, Georgia, Virginia, Florida, all of that whole area, maybe not Florida, but upper north around the Appalachians, that there's these rumors of these just holes. And when you start doing studying, you find out that there's weird runish writing in some of these places. There's other things that could be interpreted as Welsh or Gaelic rune writing. And the same thing is found in South America in several places. So the possibility that there is an inner earth and people that have survived, they could have been surviving since the last time the planet got ugly, and they had to literally go underground to hide from one side of the planet burning up and the other side of the planet freezing, and the only place to go would be into inner earth or in some kind of major cave system. And if you stayed there for any period of time, undoubtedly you would come out looking like a different kind of human being than everyone else. So that might be where some of these rumors come. And if you notice, they're called the little Moon-Eyed People, but when you come out here to the Southwest, you have the ant people that live in the caves and little people in the caves. So these things go everywhere, and I really wanted to get David's take on it, but unfortunately the weather has taken him away from the conversation. But I do know that he's been studying a lot about inner earth, cave systems, and where people may or may not have hid the last time people had to deal with things coming into the atmosphere or a low magnetic sphere where things were quite different than they are now. Hello? I'm alone in here and I'm scared. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway. So, yeah. I rambled on. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat there. It's getting rainy there. Good for you. Spelunk, North Arkansas, every summer. Spelunk. Yeah, Arkansas is another one of those places with great caverns. You got Devil's Den there, one of the biggest caverns. You got a place there where you can go. I forgot what the name of it is, but you can just go and pick out diamonds if you want to and take them home. And that's because there's a lot of caverns. And here, there's a lot of caves here. And one biggest and famous cave is 100 miles south of where I find these petroglyphs with mentions of an inner earth or some kind of subterranean entrance under the mountain, which doesn't seem that far-fetched when you realize there's a massive cavern that goes miles and miles into the earth, only 100 miles south. These are limestone caverns to the south. However, on this side, over here by the Sierra Blanca, we're talking about a granite mountain. Most of the rocks are granite. So there could be layers of limestone underneath or near the granite where there are caverns, natural caverns that people may have lived in. And like I said, I've seen, and I'm going to be showing probably part 4 or 5 of my petroglyph series there at Three Rivers. I'm going to put all the pictures together so you can look at them yourself. And it seems to be references to some kind of doorway, maybe even a Stargate, like Dubine was talking. Because the idea is not very foreign, a Stargate. It's not just on TV. You can go back into the Bible and talk about, Nebuchadnezzar. He allegedly had a Stargate. He brought Israelis from Israel, or back then they were Hebrew or whatever, brought them over because they had ancient knowledge of the Stargate, and he wanted them to come over. And allegedly, they got it working and even brought someone out, a fourth person. 3 went in, 4 came out. And then you think about recent times like 2003, and this gets back into censoring, and now things have been censored all over the world. As we all know, a lot of the older Sumerian sites are being destroyed throughout the Middle East because they don't fit the local religion nowadays. But on top of that, in 2003, a lot of commercial or governmental or military groups, unknown groups, came into not only Egypt, Iraq, and Syria, and started digging stuff up real fast, whatever the emergency was, or whatever knowledge that they thought they had. And it might be just that Saddam Hussein called himself Nebuchadnezzar. In my opinion, that was kind of a nod to the world elite that, hey, I found it, I know where it's at, and he was claiming to be the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, implying that he was about to start a new empire. And you can see how the world elite responded to that. In 2003, in the 3rd month, and they had a real thing about George Bush going in the 3rd month, because that's Mars. That represents Mars. And if, as you know, we're in the 3rd month now. That's the war month. It's Mars. March. Red. Blood. Fighting. Ironic. Someone asked if I saw lizards and turtles after eating peyote. He said it was common. I saw them in the sky above Sierra Blanca. You can see them at Three Rivers too. So that's kind of bizarre that you say that, Mr. Ortiz, because actually at Three Rivers, there's a magical trail, and that's kind of what I'm terming it, but it's obviously a spiritual trail that you walk on white gypsum dust, and a lot of the petroglyphs there are of turtles and lizards and things that they probably see in the sky. So that's not too far-fetched there. Let's see if we can get Dubine back on the line here. I want to steal his show. I feel guilty talking about stuff I want to talk about. Which Bush? That would be George Jr. Bush in 2003. Or W. What? Didn't find no mass weapons of mass destruction here. Maybe they're over here. You remember that guy who laughed about it after 1 million people died and joked about how it was all BS? You remember that guy. Don't worry, I don't have to tell you. Let's see here. What was I going at? Here in the... Oh, yeah. I know you guys want to hear about this. The male member evidently is becoming shorter through... and this is more reason for you to wear double mask, triple mask, quadruple mask, 5 masks. You can wear enough masks where you won't even have to breathe, and maybe you'll be safe. Okay? So, I don't know if we'll get banned for this word, so I'm just going to say male members are shrinking and becoming malformed because of pollution. An environmental scientist has worded in a new book detailing challenges facing human reproduction, And it goes on to talk about toxic chemicals in the air and how overall people of different ethnicities and different places and a lot of the animals that they're testing, well, their male members are getting short, but that's all right because you won't need to use them when we move into a non-gender society that has outlawed toxic masculinity for our own good, I might add, because everybody knows having a big member, nobody likes that because, you'd be out there trying to pretend like you're, dominating something or being natural or whatever. But just think about this smokestack here, and let's just chop a couple of these stripes off until it's a little stubby short stack right here. And you can see that the smokestack won't be putting out much smoke due to other environmental concerns. I hope I said that without getting in trouble. No cussing. No cussing. I don't even want to name the names of those parts there. Where was I here? Yeah, that was weird that David sent me this Suez Canal thing because that's immediately what I thought when I looked at this ship there is it looks like someone just parked it sideways. It doesn't look damaged. It doesn't, it just looks silly. So this is going to be why you can't get certain things soon, allegedly. But I think they do this every time. If you remember a few years back, they said that a bad storm had blown a bunch of ships off course and all of their stuff fell off the side of it and went to the ocean. So you wouldn't be getting those nice Nikes, as soon as you wanted. I think there is one thing cool. If a lot of you guys like Cadillacs out there, I was realizing that if you buy a Cadillac now, you can buy Nike Cadillac shoes to match your car, and they're both made in China. So you could be like matching, and your total ensemble could represent the communism we're now moving into. How about that? And you can get it at a low price. Right here. Or maybe it's we're going to reduce the price down to $19.84 for all of you guys that want to call in now. There's no number. You don't have to call because we're just going to take someone else's $19.84 away from them. Okay? I just want to hammer that point to everybody because we'll just take your money for the new system. We don't need to ask you for it anymore. Where was that article I wanted you guys to see? I really missed it. Where is it here? Global plastic shortage. Oh, yeah. Let me get back over here. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Just bear with me. Scientists figured out why our brains are big, and they wrote a big article about how they really couldn't explain it. But basically, our brain cells are different than every other brain cell of any other animal out there. And what they're saying is that because our brain cells stay immature longer than any other species, they have more time to divide. Now think about that. If you could toy with that, you could make one of those big brained guys like on the old, villains that had the big brain that got the veins pumping out of it and all that. So basically, they're saying the whole reason chimpanzees and everybody else never got smart is because, they don't produce enough of these immature brain cells that later grow neurons. So in us, they stay immature and they multiply and they divide and they divide and they divide, giving us a big number of brain cells, evidently. So I'm going to call that article, as famous OPR says, that I think this is a sharticle. It might be. It might just be a sharticle. And let's get back to this. Who would have thought we lived in a country where your decision of apparel or face apparel could lead to the removal of your offspring? Well, we live in that world now, and that's the world we're looking at right here. Heartbroken mother tells story of losing child and forced to get medical care, I'm not going to say that word, at the hands of a judge who's not a doctor, just by the way. And then, that leads you into this world that we're living in. The Matrix. There it is. It's the boy or girl in the plastic bubble. But don't worry. You won't have to worry about it. Have you guys ever heard the rumors of FEMA camps and other things? Maybe being at Fort Bliss in Texas? Well, according to this article, damn, the show's over. Well, thanks for watching. I'm not your host, David Dubine. I'm Ransom Godwin at 420 TV, but thanks for listening in at freedomslips.com. It sounds like the music is playing and we gotta go. Thanks for joining us, and for everybody else, I'll be right here live still. How unfortunate. Yeah. At least he's probably got some money going there. Rain going. Money, rain, water, same thing. With all those thunderstorms, at least people are getting water for their crops. That's a positive thing. Let's step in here to the chat, and I'm going to open up the phone line again, like I did the other night, to see what some of you guys think about some of the topics that we talked about tonight. And please don't call when someone else calls. And we'll take a couple calls. I'm Ransom Godwin, 420 TV on Skype. If you would not like to do that, we'll switch over to here. and I'll turn this news off and put up the phone number for you guys right here. So if you got a phone and you're in the United States, you can call. If you're not in the United States, here, let me grab that and make it bigger where you guys can see it. Whoa, not that big. All right, here we go. So the number is 1-813-735-4288, or you can reach me on Skype and call me there. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about everything from babies in plastic bubbles in the Matrix all the way to us supposedly exploring Mars with little drones that we most likely will never see a picture of. So there it is. There's the phone number. Anybody at all. I'll give you like a couple minutes. Don't worry about it. This is a friendly show. You don't have to be, bashful. Just call right in. I heard it was for building on. Yeah, I can cuss now. Shit happens, says living in the left field. It looks like everybody bounced out already. Shit, ain't nobody to call. That's what kind of popular show we got here on 420 TV. We got such good fans, they don't call. I'm on Skype. I didn't think people still used it. That's funny. And I have just received $25 from Bill Sibley. Muchos gracias. Thank you very much. That's greatly appreciated here. Like I said a long time ago, I'll never ask for money on this channel, on my channel. But I'm not arguing getting it. This is what I do for a living, or at least I try to do it for a living. And that's to show you guys cool stuff. I want to keep doing that. I'm planning more trips. I hope to show you guys some really stuff. I'm muted. Really? How am I muted? Am I muted? Am I really muted? Oh, you hear me now? I don't know what happened. This sounds like a big bungalow of a show tonight. I'm going to call it a big poop. I don't want to say bad words too much, because they ban me all the time. What would be great is to hear in the audience. You don't have to call in or nothing, because I think I have this thing on. I didn't even have the ringer on. I'm sorry. Anyway, what would be cool is you guys put in there what you think. I would like to see in the, not in the chat room, but in the comments of this video, if you're still watching at this point, what do you think I got banned for? Because, they really never tell me. One time they said I was a bully. The second time, I think they said I was promoting heat and promoting hate. And this is on the last channel. I don't remember the other things on the other channel. One time was medical misinformation, even though I always say I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, it's just my opinion, because I read things. But anyway, I'd like you to put in the description of this video what you think is a topic that some of them are obvious, right? Epstein, blah, 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 things around that. But other things that I've talked about, why do you think I've been banned? And what do you think I should start talking about more? I'm not aligning to the thought process. Don't drink. So you guys are in your own world. That's cool. I love the chat world too. Anyway, that's all I got for 420 TV. Thanks for watching. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for participating. And may have God mercy on your soul in this new world we live in. How about that? If you believe in God. If your higher power's a bottle of alcohol, then go pray to that. Whatever. Oh, mentioning the jab, the 1-2 punch. That probably is it, most likely. But like I said, now I recommend it. 420 TV recommends you get all your jabs. You triple bag your mask, or quadruple it. You can put it over your head. You could wear some of those little nasal ones that just does your nose. I was waiting for the little ones you put in there, like a little HEPA filter you put right up in your nose like this, and then you go around talking to everybody saying, I'm safe from the virus. I am totally safe because I got HEPA filters up my nose. Used to box. I like jabs. That straight jab is the one you never see coming. Bam! Right there in your face. You never see that one coming, and that's exactly what the government does. Right in your face. Bam! Straightforward. Anyway, peace out. Have a blast. Have a ball. This is 420 TV. You're listening to 177.6 on your freedom of speech dial. Please remember that because it's disappearing. Freedom of speech, that is.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth till dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Chair full of broken